Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 18 of Last Minute FPL. This is the Game Week 18 podcast. Hi, Vikas. How are you?
Good. How are you? Much more happy mood for me for the first time I think this season coming into this podcast.
Yeah, real celebratory game week for you, and that's why. Let's get into it. We'll start with last week's points, and we should start with your team. 106 points. What an amazing week! Your team is up there. You've jumped from 4.2 million to 2.8 million. Incredible week all around.
Yeah, it started really well and it continued. I actually don't know how much the Salah captaincy really got me in terms of ranking, but I guess in my rank area there are a lot of Haaland teams only without Salah, which could have gotten me quite a few rank jumps. But really, it's the Isak and the Rogers hauls that really pulled me through with a lot of help and assists from Sanchez, Robinson, and Lewis Hall, uh, who all chipped in with a clean sheet. I'm really happy with the defense. I think last week was pretty good as well, and this week with this budget defense rotation that I have going on is doing pretty okay, which is covering up for some of the frailties I have there in terms of cost and the need to balance the budget there. So I'm really happy that the defense is showing up pretty decently, and some of these players like Isak did turn up, who was a transfer in.
Yeah, I think almost all your decision making paid off. Like, firstly, your transfers in Robinson and Isak doing really well, and then your decision to play Rogers also paid off. And who needs Haaland right now that the rest of your team is firing on all cylinders?
Yeah, actually during the City Villa game, I was pretty okay with the outcome. Like 16 points between Rodgers and Haaland. It didn't really matter who got it, but he's still kind of a very strange figure in my team at 15 million, and I'm just really afraid to captain him in any single game week. So yeah, the next 5 weeks is super important. I'm really happy that it started off the right way.
Cool. Uh, let's go into the AI's team next. AI team again, amazing week. Going from 21k to 10k now, like knocking on the door of the top 10k, 97 points. Again, Isak, Gordon have been doing the job for a while now. And Cunha, I don't know how he didn't get banned, but I think the Premier League has taken some Christmas holidays, so he's still playing. And yeah, Salah captain and Trent with an assist, and also Johnson and Sells returning. Quite a few returns in the team overall.
Agreed. So the week again, happy to kind of see Cunha coming through for the AI team. Johnson's been chipping in, right, like throughout the season, even for your team. He's been getting the points, here and there, like honest work if needed. Gordon coming through. So really, really strong week again, end to end. Sells with a clean sheet. And we'll probably talk about that in the future, but Forest again looking good, with some of their fixtures coming through, and the AI team's already in a really good position, having Sells and goal. So yeah, overall really strong team. The only small negative is Rogers on the bench.
Yeah. Cool. Let's move on to my team. Started off terribly. Somehow ended up with a green arrow. I'm up from 1 million to 988k. So I'll take that. But the week started pretty disastrously. I did not get Isak, and Saka got injured early. I was on 20 points going into the last day. But luckily, Semenyo, Salah, Solanke, and Trent did the job to somehow get me a green arrow.
Yeah, I mean, the really strong last day. I think Semenyo and Solanke coming through was like pretty good, right?
Yeah, very massive, especially Solanke's 9 points.
It was not looking good, but I think with those two coming through, it's pretty decent game week.
Yeah, more of a lost opportunity, I would say, because a lot of managers around me got really big green arrows, but I'll take it. Green arrow is a green arrow, and hopefully I stay in the top million for the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think still strong team. Maybe just some surgery needed with Rahul and Saka, which maybe will come to talk through in some other future slides.
Yeah. Cool. Let's look at the updated mini league standings now. Yeah, AI team extending its lead on the top. Pretty clear gap between the top two and the third spot now, around 30 points. You've made some heavy inroads. You're catching up to the rest of the pack, and yeah, well set up for the next few weeks.
Yeah, still in the bottom two, but really happy with the ranking. I think I do need like another 3 to 4 weeks before I really get in that chasing pack and cluster in the middle. So still a ways to go, but pretty happy with the overall ranking for this week. Just looking at the mini league again, just at a high level, Kante, Tarun and Sampath all doing really well, and Siddharth Pant, Abhishek Salkar. So the top of the table did really high scoring week, and the top of the table, all of them done really well. So really still a clustered pack, and it's going to be really exciting over the next few weeks where we have so many games coming through to see how this table changes.
Yeah, definitely. Let's take a quick look at the previous game week matches now. Some really high scoring games. Definitely the Newcastle win, the Liverpool win, and the Arsenal win stand out to me. Did you watch any of the games?
Yeah, I can talk through the Chelsea Fulham game to start with. The Chelsea Everton game, which was a very very dodgy game for Chelsea playing away, and I think this was a fixture that did look tough on paper because Everton's not an easy place to go right now, and it did turn out that way. I think it was pretty windy, similar to the weather that people were complaining about during the Liverpool cancellation. So it was a tough game. There were not many opportunities created, if at all. I think Chelsea got a bit lucky because Everton did have a few good chances and Sanchez made a few great saves. So overall, pretty lucky to get away with the draw, I would say. And it's just one of those fixtures to get away from the calendar.
Makes sense. And yeah, I think Everton have been really good defensively of late, so not a terrible result, although Chelsea missed the chance to go to top of the table. I can talk about the United Bournemouth game. United missed a lot of chances. They were extremely wasteful in attack. I think Ahmad is actually looking really good, and I feel like he could be a good option, although I don't want to go there and get the double depression of United and FPL. But yeah, United were very bad defensively. I know, for example, Isak has Man United away soon, and I don't think that I would be looking that as a tough fixture at all.
Yeah, I'm really confused about Ahmad. I do really want him, but I'm also I don't know if he's going to maintain a spot in the team. And again, something maybe we'll talk in a few slides down. But really encouraging to hear that Man United is still interesting from an FPL perspective with players like Ahmad, who's super cheap and pretty interesting from an FPL point of view. Really briefly to touch upon the Villa City game. Again, another defeat for Man City. Pretty incredible what's going on. I think I did catch almost the second half of the game. Very, very uninspiring to watch Man City play again. It's not like the previous few games where Man City first started out, they were still making some chances but missing them. This was more of a case of Man City just not creating any chances. The goal from Foden was pretty lucky. I think it was kind of like an unforced error from Villa towards the end, due to which City got that goal. But otherwise, a really strong performance from Villa with Rodgers playing out of his skin this game. It's one of the best performances that of a single player in a Premier League game this season, and it's just another loss for City. What do you think is going on there?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, if at all they have to turn it around, it'll be the fixture run that they have now. although they do start with Everton, who have been pretty good defensively. But yeah, the next 5 game weeks are crucial both for City and for Haaland owners like yourself.
One of the most exciting games, I don't know if you caught it, was the Ipswich Newcastle game, 4-0, with Isak starting the scoring 30 seconds into the game. Such a strong start for Isak owners. And then he missed a big chance, but then he did put away another 2 goals, making it a hat trick. And quite a celebration for all those owning Isak, and I think he's already had a double tries so far. And do you see him as kind of the standard option over the next few weeks from a striker's perspective?
Yeah, definitely. I think his next 3 games are Villa, United, and Spurs, and none of them have looked that exceptional defensively. So I think he is the standout forward option. And great timing for you. Speaking of transfer timing, getting in someone just before a hat trick is one of the best feelings there is in FPL. I was extremely desperate to do Solanke to Isak, but I just didn't have the money without taking a hit. But yeah, I'll probably look to bring him in this week. I do have 2 free transfers and some Saka money to spare, so I'll look at how I can bring him in. Do you want to quickly talk about the Spurs Liverpool game as well? Look at that XG that Liverpool, over 5 XG created it. Like, what are Spurs even doing defensively?
Yeah, they were incredible. Liverpool are incredible, and this was that fixture which turned out exactly as everyone predicted. It was goals galore, gaps in the back, both for Spurs and Liverpool. I feel like the Spurs goals were pretty lucky in the sense that Liverpool are already far ahead, and none of those goals ever threatened the state of the game itself. Liverpool were extremely, extremely exciting to watch. They were just ripping Spurs through the middle, and unreal to see Salah getting 2 goals, 2 assists, even though they were pretty easy goals, open goals, tap-ins, but another big haul for Salah on us.
Yeah, and he even hit the crossbar. Like, it's crazy what Ange is doing at Spurs. Like, I know they create a lot of chances, but this is just not the way to play in the Premier League. Like, you're just gifting goals to teams. Yeah, and I think we'll continue to target Spurs as a defense and see how it goes.
Yeah, few of the interesting things there that stood out to me was Diaz playing pretty high up, and also Szoboszlai. He racked up quite a lot of XGI, and he was really bombarding through the middle, and he had a really strong game for Liverpool.
Yeah, and like when he was getting his goals and assists, like I was like, that's the wrong Dormes that's getting all the points. But luckily, Solanke ended up getting a goal and an assist towards the end. Yeah, and I think the other match that we should talk about is the Palace Arsenal game. Saka getting injured very early on, but Arsenal continuing to score the goals, and Gabriel Jesus 2 games in a row against Palace after the League Cup, getting 5 goals in 2 games. He'll probably play a major role in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Saka not being in the team is going to affect Arsenal, both from an offensive perspective and also kind of how their team shapes up. I think Sterling also has an injury, so it really unlocks a few players like Martinelli, Trossard, Jesus, players that not many considered so far because of X minutes, and now it's an opportunity to actually see if some of these players are going to be worth it. On the other hand, maybe Odegaard's influence also goes through the roof, and he might be the one to target for Arsenal.
Yeah, and he might be on penalties as well, and we'll talk about some of the midfield options shortly. But let's move on. Let's take a look at next week's games. Again, some juicy encounters. Liverpool playing Leicester at home with an XG predicted of 3.65. I don't think I've seen such a high number even when Man City played Ipswich. And Arsenal has Ipswich at home, another potentially high-scoring game. Do you think that manager should consider the triple captain on Salah?
I think no, because of the double game week. I always end up going for the ceiling. Although, if you just look at it from a pure XG projection perspective, this might be actually more than what would get projected over the addition of 2 game weeks. I would still keep it for the double game week because of that potential ceiling and more minutes in the bag. But you really can't go wrong even if you play it, and you have other plans for the double game week like the assistant manager chip or whatnot.
Yeah, and I mean the only concern might be if Slot decides to rotate him, given the quick turnaround of fixtures, which would be disastrous if you play the triple captainship. And I think even the small possibility of that is putting me away from it. Um, any other games that stand out to you other than these two?
It's really interesting to see the Brighton Brentford game projecting 2.15 goals for Brighton. Uh, I think it's the Brentford away factor. As good as Brentford have been at home, I think the models are taking into the factor that Brentford's form away is so bad, and projecting a really high XG for Brighton, because even Brighton's not been in good form. João Pedro not racking up many points for their owners, and generally they're not playing as confidently as they usually do.
Yeah, pretty terrible owning Pedro so far, but at his price and like he's still getting the minutes, so I plan to keep him for the medium term. Hopefully he comes good. Uh, but okay, let's move on to the fixture ticker now. Chelsea's still right at the top. I think you did really well in getting Sanchez in at the right time. But now City is also very high in the ticker, and it's make or break for Man City in terms of what they achieve in the league this season. Apart from that, I think Liverpool and United also have some good fixtures out of the good teams. And in terms of budget options, I think Palace showing up so high in the table, and Fulham as well. So maybe people like Sarr and maybe someone like Iwobi or Smith Rowe, because I think the striker situation at Fulham is super confusing.
Yeah, Chelsea's good run continuing to extend here. I do think, when you brought up Sanchez, I think he will probably get rested for the Ipswich at home game. I'm certainly expecting him to miss out there because it's an opportune game to rotate and play Jorgensen. This is make or break, like you said, for Man City. Haaland has to come through for those who kind of kept him, because beyond the next 5 weeks, I don't think even those owning Haaland will continue to keep him. So now with Saka being injured, I think this is, if not now, then there's no salvaging the season for people who kept on and held on to Haaland.
Yeah, I think that's a fair evaluation. But these 5 games could actually be the time to catch up on some of the people you fell behind, because I don't think anyone's going to be able to get Haaland without making 2 or 3 moves. So it's like an automatic differential that you have, and with the rest of your team doing well, I think it's kind of a risk-free differential.
I think the next 3, even for Liverpool, look really strong, right? Leicester, West Ham, Man United could be high scoring as well.
Yeah, and Salah could run riot in all 3 of those games. And I'm happy to own Trent as well. He's now got, I think, 6 assists in 14 games, which is very reasonable. And even someone like Solanke, for example, like we've struggled with him, but I was looking at his overall season statistics, and he has like 11 returns in 14 games, which is also not at all bad at his price. It's just that we can never predict when those returns come.
As a non-Haaland owner, is there any game week here that you're worried about, captaincy? The only thing that stood out to me was game week 20, where City play West Ham, I think at home, and Salah plays Man United, which actually looks like a good fixture, and Chelsea play Crystal Palace, which can be tricky.
Yeah, I don't think I'm worried from a captaincy perspective, because a lot of the managers have actually gotten rid of Haaland. So from an ownership perspective, even if he does well, maybe the impact of it is not as scary as it was when I initially got rid of him. And I'm perfectly happy captaining Salah against United at home. It's historically been a great fixture for him. He's got some really high scoring returns in those games, and it's at Anfield. So I think I'll be okay with Salah as captain.
Fair point.
Okay. Let's look at an analysis that we did now for Saka replacements. I know you don't own Saka, but maybe that'll let you be a bit more objective about it. Do you want to walk us through what you've put together?
Yeah, just a set of players across a different range of price points that looking into from replacement perspective. And the few players in the shortlist here are Sar, Sun, Bruno, Foden, Ahmad, and Odegaard. Few other notable options here who are not on this table are, for example, a Diaz or a Jota, maybe even a Madison. But there are always a few doubts over, especially the Liverpool guys. There are a few doubts in terms of X minutes and who's actually going to play in the front three. And I think there will be some rotation there. So they are honorary mentions, but not put in this table. Amongst these five, both tables here are sorted by non-penalty XG, and right at the top there, and this is season data. So right at the top there, you do see Ismail Assar, who is top for non-penalty XG per 90. So he is a really, really strong option from a data perspective when you're thinking about chances to score a goal. Now, if you look at the variance with adding XA to this data, Son Heung-min actually does show up right at the top at 0.77 non-penalty XG plus XAG. Does show that Son has that assist potential compared to the other options, but I still don't see strong enough data to justify Son here amongst all these six options because of his price point and also just generally lower goal scoring threat as shown in this data. What do you think in terms of XG and XAG?
Yeah, I think my initial thoughts when Saka got injured were to go either to Bruno or Odegaard. Bruno because, kind of a long-term hold pick. He's playing in the front three. He had a really good game against Bournemouth, of course, without the returns. But he's going to be nailed, and if you want someone through the Christmas period, he should be at least a historically reliable option. Odegaard because I really want to target that Ipswich at home fixture. And without Saka, he should ideally be on penalties as well, and everything should go through him. He is on a lot of set pieces too. So those two were my initial thoughts, especially around the price range of Saka. Sar is the other one because Palace's fixtures are really turning, and he's someone I am looking at. But maybe it could be someone making way like Semenyo rather than Saka. So maybe I'll wait another week or two to make that move. Son and Foden I'm not really looking at. Son because of his price point, like you said. And Spurs are also unpredictable. Son was taken off early as well in a couple of games recently. And Foden, I just don't want to go near that City team right now. It is tempting with the fixtures that they have. But yeah, probably a risk too far when there are some other good options.
I think with Sar, just diving deeper into this data, as you said, he seems at least on paper to be a really, really strong option, both because of the fixtures and in terms of what the data tells us. He is performing. He's not exceeding his underlying or underperforming. He's performing as expected in terms of his underlying data. He may not be getting as many shots as someone like a Semenyo, but he is getting the most shots on target from a percentage perspective. So it does show that, and if you even look at the distance data here, he's getting his shots much closer to goal as compared to some of the other options here. So it does show that he is playing forward. He's getting some really great opportunities very close to goal, and that's the type of data that you do want to see for players who can get that big haul, which is possible as the fixtures turn green.
Yeah, I think he's a very strong option, and he'll definitely be in my team in the next couple of weeks. It's just a question of whether I go Saka straight to him or go to someone like Odegaard and maybe next week do Semenyo to Sar. That's the only thing, because the other transfer that I want to prioritize is somehow to get Isak in, and probably those two moves being a priority will push the Sar move to a little later.
Yeah, we do have to talk about Bruno. I think again, like in this table, the only player that has both free kick and penalty potential in terms of data is Bruno. So he has Son might be on penalties. I'm not sure. It could be Solanke, but Bruno definitely is on pens. Takes a lot of set pieces. It's generally very consistent. His data is consistent. He's up there with in terms of XG, XA, just all around a really strong option. And the other player that does show up here in terms of set piece data is Odegaard, and his influence might actually go up in terms of set pieces because we do expect him on penalties. So at that higher price point, I think you would say it's Bruno versus Odegaard, right?
Yeah, and I think Odegaard is still a very short-term option for me. Like clearly in this data as well, he has the least effective numbers. But the Ipswich game is too tempting. With Bruno, yeah, like you said, he is someone who is higher priced, so you are relying on him to get more frequent returns. And I'm a little bit hesitant on going with him because of how I got burnt earlier in the season. And with both Bruno and Ahmad, United are just so unpredictable. But like objectively, they could be good options. But I want to not have that extra emotional baggage also with those picks.
Yeah. What do you think about Ahmad? He is not showing up as high as some of the other options here in terms of data. And that might be because he had this phase where he was playing wing back.
Yeah, I think at his price point he is a great option. Like if you look at his data as well, like if you include XA as well, he's getting almost 0.5. It's 0.46 XG plus XA per 90, and I think at his price point that's a great return. Maybe he's not an option above Sarr, but alongside him, if you are going for a midfield like Salah, Palmer, Sarr, Semenyo, and Ahmad, maybe he could be an option. I don't think that he's a priority or anything because he could also easily be rotated. Although he is the standout attacker for United right now alongside Bruno.
Yeah, I'm definitely closely considering Ahmad because I do think United are much better attack than Palace. They just feel like a better attack. I don't know if United will actually score more goals than Palace over the next 5, but definitely as a team they're a stronger attack, and that's where I'm leaning more towards kind of or Ahmad is tempting me.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just, yeah, against Sarr, there won't be any questions on whether he'll play, whether he'll get majority of the chances. With Ahmad, there is always that question mark. And United have also been so unpredictable with converting their chances. There have been multiple occasions where they create more than 2 XG and then score none. So, yeah, I think a lot going on there. But a relatively low risk option at his price.
Any temptations on Foden?
No, like I was saying, I think I just don't want to go near the City team right now at that price point. And probably going Saka to Foden will also prevent some other upgrades to be made in the striker position or the defender position. So I don't think I'll be going to Foden. I'm also looking at Martinelli actually. It could be a very very high risk option because Trossard could easily play there. But I'm considering him purely for the Ipswich game with a view to move him on to someone like Sarr next week. Cool. Let's move on then from the Saka replacements to our next week's teams. We'll start with the AI team. So yeah, I think the AI team looks really good again for this week. Almost everyone is playing at home. I think only Johnson has Forest away. And I think that is the transfer out that the AI team will be making. But I'll wait till the deadline to see who to bring in because Cunha could easily be suspended as well. But otherwise, yeah, I think Salah, Palmer, Gordon, Isak, Pedro, and the entire defense has really good fixtures at home.
I think really good position still. The only issue I can see here is Cunha if he gets a ban. Rodgers off the bench is still not a bad option. So I think overall still a really great team. I think all the major players in play like Salah, Palmer, and Isak. So it's I think onwards and upwards into the top 10K.
Yeah. Cool. Let's look at my team now. have some issues, and I have 2 free transfers to try and fix them. And I think this podcast kind of helped, because I really want to get Isak in this week, ideally for Raul, because I don't want to worry about when he's going to play, because he's clearly been benched for the easier fixtures. Saka money should help me do that. Maybe if I do Saka to Sar, I should be able to do Raul to Isak. But I'm really gutted about losing an Arsenal attacker for the Ipswich game. That could be a cricket scoreline. So I am considering, say, a Odegaard or a Martinelli. Although if I get Odegaard, then I'll have to upgrade Solanke to Isak instead of Raul, and maybe I'll play Rogers. So there are a few permutations and combinations. I'm pretty sure Isak is going to be in my team by the end of this game week.
Are you thinking at all about like Gabriel Jesus, for example, who's a little bit more budget friendly to upgrade a Raul to for this week, and then maybe moving on to Isak the next week, or along those lines to just maximize that ceiling on the Ipswich home game?
It is an option, but then it would then have to be Saka to Sar and Raul to Jesus, which is not a bad option at all. Yeah, I'll consider it, but I think given the type of manager I am, I'll probably get Isak this week itself, because I think if Isak had some tough fixtures upcoming, then I think I would have stayed away from him. But the next 3 look really juicy to me. I think Villa, Spurs, and United, and then after that, it's again a great run of fixtures. So I think I might as well just get him in now, and I'm behind the curve a bit, but I'll correct the mistake rather than take more
Makes
risks.
sense. Makes sense. Any thought process on Sar versus Ahmad in terms of your replacement for Saka?
So for me, I'm still considering Odegaard and Martinelli. So it's not yet certain that I'll go that cheap. And in that case, I'll probably have to upgrade Solanke if I go for Odegaard. Although Martinelli, I can still upgrade Raul. But yeah, between Sar and Ahmad, I personally would go with Sar. His numbers are better, and he is in a team that is more, maybe not more attacking, but that he's going to play, the role he's going to play. United just seems a little chaotic. They're still 13th in the table. Can you believe that? Like, Amorim came in and they're still 13th in the table. There's just, it's not exciting for me as a United fan.
I think the only thing which I was thinking, I'm going through similar thought process as well as we'll get to my team, between the Sar and Ahmad pick in that mid-price range. It's a much better game week to get on Ahmad, because they're playing Wolves. Man United are playing Wolves, whereas Palace are playing Bournemouth. Bournemouth are a very difficult team to come up against. So just from the perspective of, it's always nice to get a horse when you get a player in.
Yeah. No, yeah. That
kind of influences my decisions somewhere.
That makes sense, which is why I'm trying to stair step to Sar by getting someone like a Martinelli this week. So yeah, I think a lot of decisions to be made in the next couple of days. I'm keeping my options open.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay. Now let's go to your team. So what do you have in store after that amazing game week?
Actually, looking at this team, there's nothing much to be done. It looks pretty good for this week, but I actually just recently did a transfer, and that's just once I made it, I just realized it's just purely influenced, by the market, right? And it's playing way too much into my head. Don't know if it's a good thing or not. I do have 0.2 million in the bank, and I do want to get rid of Semenyo. Like, maybe this week is not the best time to get rid of him, but next week I do want to get him out, because Bournemouth's fixtures do become a bit tougher. And Sar is around like 0.1 million more than Semenyo, and it's pretty close to rising. The other player that I do want to get in and at the same time move out from my team is Lewis, and get in Daniel Munoz, who is also a really strong option from Palace. And I do need some funds for that as well. And to be not locked out of that Munoz move, I cannot afford a price rise on Sar. So I did make that transfer of moving Semenyo to Sar this week. And between Sar and Ahmad, I was pretty torn between the two options because I think there are pros and cons to both. We spoke about jumping in on an easier fixture with Ahmad, a better team, but Sar does have the better data and maybe better fixtures as well. My thought process there was I can quite easily move from Sar to Ahmad, but the other way around is probably going to be much more difficult because of the funds needed.
I think makes sense, and I think and team value will come into play towards the end of the season, especially when we build our wildcard teams and free hit teams. When it comes to the double game weeks, I think this season I've probably lost a good 500,000 at least by not being careful, even during, like, when I had my wildcard active and so on, not just with early transfers. So I'm hoping it doesn't come to bite me back later. But yeah, I think it's a very reasonable reason to make that move.
Yeah, and the other thing that very specific to my team is I'm looking at just the next 5 fixtures, just the next 5, not beyond that. And the reason being is I will move Haaland out of the team after game week 22.
Yeah.
Once that run ends, and I'll have a lot of funds to free up.
Yeah.
Where I can I can get anyone else. Like once Haaland moves out of the team, so I'm not really worried about fixtures beyond the next 5.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like you can kind of dead end your team to game week 22, and then with the Haaland money, you can literally even upgrade someone like an Enzo to a really good midfielder. So or like any defender to a Trent, for example. So yeah, I think that's a good strategy to employ.
Any discussion needed on captaincy?
No, I think let's just not even think about it. This is the craziest season he's ever had. I can't believe it's coming. I think 7 seasons after his first amazing season, and I thought that was a high variance one. But I think he's well on his way to smash that points tally. He's on his way to smash the Premier League assists record. Like a bunch of incredible stats from this season from him.
Truly remarkable, honestly, from a legend of a player, both in terms of the Premier League and FPL.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Do like, share, and subscribe. Any last words, Vikas?
Merry Christmas to one and all, and have a really nice holiday and enjoy the Boxing Day fixtures. We'll see you next time.